You have been listening to the OMG podcast with Paul Finkelstein. We can help you build wealth without hogging your time. Schedule a one-on-one with us. Thanks for listening. Join us again for another OMG podcast segment.
Hi, everybody. This is Paul Finkelstein with OMG Cafe Live Talk Radio. I was just on a call with this gentleman, Chris. I'm not even going to say your name, but you can say your last name for me so everybody hears it.
Chris Kittisell.
Yep, Chris Kittisell. Okay, got it. I think I got it. So welcome to OMG Biz Cafe. I love to interview small business owners, entrepreneurs, workaholic professionals. If somebody doesn't like the word workaholic, well, it's just another term for entrepreneur, basically, in my mind, anyway. I'm going to share my screen on StreamYard. On the right side, you're seeing the Skyliverse at omgtalk.com. If you actually want to come in here and you're a member, or if you're a guest, you can come in and actually ask your question in person, or you could actually look at my YouTube. And to find my YouTube, I think you just have to type in OMG Biz Cafe, and anybody that comments there, I could feature you on the screen as well. But Chris is in the IT field, and you are in the not Spring Hill, Florida. That was another person. I'm trying to remember where you're from. Go ahead, tell me.
Palm Beach County.
Oh, Palm Beach County, right. You were the one that came to Bruce and Sherry's event at 2J's. We have like 5 different events in Palm Beach County, and Chris was one of the people that came to our in-person meetings. So Bruce and Sherry, we're doing a little bit of a in-depth here with Chris. If you don't know these questions, well, here's some great answers that we'll learn from Chris all about the IT field. Let's dive in and learn about Chris. So what is your expertise and experience in the IT industry?
My expertise is I've been a system administrator for about 20 years now. I started when I just got out of college. I started in a local municipality, and I was there for about 18 years. Moved on to a $1 million company. And then after 2 years, I decided to start my own business.
So you entered the world of being an entrepreneur. You learned from working 9 to 5 and checking out at 5 o'clock and getting a paycheck to now you have all hours of the day.
Correct.
Excellent.
I have more flexibility. It's a little bit tough at the beginning to start getting customers, but if it wasn't hard, everyone else would be doing it.
No kidding. So being in your own business has its rewards and privileges and challenges all at the same time. Could you provide us with here's a loaded question, with some references or case studies from previous clients? Anything interesting?
So again, working with the local municipality, myself, putting pride in my work. I didn't moonlight or anything like that. I was always focused to my 9 to 5, 7:30 to 4 job. So basically, I worked for a big government and moved on to a shipping business. So, but not necessarily dealing with the shipping of products, but dealing with their infrastructure.
So what specific services do you actually offer?
So I do all sorts of services, anywhere from the infrastructure itself, working with servers. I also work with desktops, laptops, and devices such as iPads and tablets. I've had my experience, my unique experience has been working on police, fire, personal computers, the computers that bring up the important information that they need while they're out in the field, out patrolling, out on dispatch calls. I've also worked on shipping vessels, the computers that are on there for maintenance, creating requisitions, timesheets, all while being out at sea.
Wow. So what's your approach to project management and communication? Could you elaborate on any of those topics, or you could pivot to something that's more important?
Yeah, no, project management is very important as itself. I've had a lot of experience working with other contractors and being a liaison. And, it's very important to have a project managed and fit into a schedule to keep everyone on track. There's deadlines that need to be met. And a lot of the times there's just not enough time in the day to complete all your tasks. So having a project management really focuses those people.
So how do you handle project timelines and deadlines? Tell us about that. Can of worms or breeze piece of cake?
No, well, I like to be realistic on expectations. I lay them out all forward. Because I've been in the field for so long, I know true timelines. I'm not coming off of, a boot camp or a certification that says, oh, in a sandbox, installing an operating system will take 1 hour. No, I've actually been in the field needing to build a server or a workstation under pressure, outside of business hours, whatnot, and doing all those processes limited by bandwidth, limited by resources, networking resources, anything else that, would be in an actual environment, not just a sandbox.
Now, tell us about your pricing models and payment terms. Fancy, easy, piece of cake?
Right now, as I transition into a per project model, coming from a salary range, it's really sitting in an office and, getting assigned projects. What I've seen coming from government, moving on to the private sector, is that, there's always work. It's just the management that needs to focus on what is important and also look into the future of where your company, business, or government is going to be. What other things are around the corner? Is an operating system going to be end of life? Do you need to replace that equipment? Do you have computers that are at the end of their life cycle that need to be need to be rebuilt, need to be replaced?
Excellent. We're at the 8-minute mark. I got a time for a few more questions, and then we'll wrap up and learn how they can reach out to you if anybody's resonated with you so far. But how do you ensure data security and compliance?
I would evaluate the environment itself. That's one of my strengths, I feel. I'm able to go into an environment cold, evaluate it, see what needs to be improved, see what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. All those things will all culminate into, a pricing structure. It's something that, for me, coming from a salary, I'm offering senior level experience on a per project basis. So it can also work for the smaller companies that, don't necessarily know they need a system administrator. Their company is growing bigger. What I've seen in bigger businesses is the infrastructure has not grown to the size of the business. I've gone from being in a small team of 6 to 8 people to being in a small part of a team that has other teams associated with the different functions as well.
And thank you for that detail as well. What is the process for handling technical support and maintenance?
Well, technical support, you have either the first is your break fix, where you have a problem, you need to solve the issue. The other side of it, which is what I provide, is maintenance. computers, they need to be replaced from time to time. Servers need to be replaced from time to time. All that stuff is in a cycle. And the environment has kind of grown to it where, yes, it does have a depreciation, and eventually you do need to replace those items. A lot of the smaller businesses, they try to hold on to their equipment. And really, that you're running that gamble of what happens if that equipment goes down. Are you able to survive a day, 2, 3, 4 month on not having that equipment? So I try and put in preventative maintenance, keep your computers up to date with Microsoft updates, make sure that your backups are running, make sure that if you do have a disaster, that we can get you up and running as quickly as possible. Because again, with tariffs going on right now, and shortage of electronics, you're not gonna readily find some things, and you can't necessarily run to your local Best Buy.
So tell us about how you accommodate scaling as somebody's business grows, or maybe your business grows and you need some extra help. I imagine you have some resources for backup. If you can't answer the call, are you available 24 hours a day, or could your clients wait the next day to handle something?
Yes, I definitely see a need for that in the future. Always expect to be growing bigger and bigger. That's really where all businesses want to go. You want to build your business. I've always myself wanted to work with the equipment themselves. I never really wanted to climb the ladder into management and, less working on the equipment. That's where I find joy. So, I can help a company grow in itself on providing recommendations on where they need to go next, help those smaller businesses push on, so I can pass on my expertise onto the business owner, and they can kind of gauge where they want to go as well. Do they see a need to hire a person to do something full time, or do they need to just stick with projects and upgrade their equipment?
And thank you for that. Here's one last question, then we'll ask you for any last thoughts. Maybe you have another question you want to add to it, and tell us, our listeners, where they could find you if they resonated with one of the answers that you gave, like a phone number, you can say it twice, or an email, or a website. I don't know if we're cybersecurity, if you want to send an email or not. Maybe you have tricks and trades for that. But here's the last question. What is your policy on updates and technological advances? I guess you have to go to CE class as well as an IT person, or you're always reading trade journals and magazines?
Yeah, that's that in itself is a double-edged sword. What I've seen in my many years in IT is that, you can get all these certifications, and yes, they look great on a resume, and they really resonate with a person on, continuing their education. But you also want to be careful about becoming, too specialized into something. You go on to these recruiting sites, Indeed, Monster, Career Builder, and you see a lot of specialized things. And what do you certify in? What do you want to do? The Cisco certification in itself, is very expensive, very lengthy, very detailed, and but it also has to be renewed every so often. And are you going to be using that in some environments that you may not even use that? I think it does help, kind of shrink down the number of applications that you get if you're trying to find a hire, but you need to also look at the experience themselves, because yes, if they're in a certification class, they're working in a sandbox, you're not going to experience some of these worst case scenarios that, I've been, whether it's lucky or unfortunate, I've been experienced to a lot of chaotic experiences that aren't in the textbook. And you have to think on the fly to get these systems back up and running. Because again, you could be government, you could be a business. Do you have the time that your system can be down?
You probably had to deal with all kinds of viruses of any kind.
Yes. Viruses, ransomware, you got to have your backups. You got to be, once you do have your backups, can you restore from those backups? Have you tested that? There's a lot of stuff that you have to do. Also, educate your employees. Watch out for phishing scams. That needs to be constantly in their continuing education in itself, because the weakest point in your environment are your end users. They're the ones who introduce all of this.
And with that being said, that was our last question for this time before I go into a 10 o'clock meeting. And if you're not rushed for time, you could join us and see if I could introduce you to more small business owners. You're already in the space. You just have to click on a bubble back into the outdoor auditorium theater, and that will be the room where guests will come in at 10 o'clock. Same, it might be 10 people, it might be 5 people, it might be 3 of us. But maybe that person could be your very next client or resource to help you look for your next client. But tell us, do you have any last thoughts, or do you have any questions that I didn't cover that you want to add that's pressing?
Yeah, no, I appreciate all these meetings. This interview in itself, it's great practice for me. I've been so isolated for 20 years in a room and keeping the infrastructure up and running. It's really refreshing to, have the interaction. And, I want to know what everyone needs. What are your needs? I've for so long have worked under a supervisor who's here. This is the project. This is our roadmap. This is where we're going. Sometimes I don't see eye to eye with that supervisor or that higher up. I may see things differently. It's all perspective. So, but I enjoy the experience that we're building here today and in the future, and building that networking ecosystem.
And I invite you to, if you feel comfortable, if you'd like to say your phone number twice, nice and slow, like you're giving it on the radio, or a website that's hopefully not so long, how people could reach out to you. Or do you want them to just contact me at omgtalk.com? And I like to say, just meet us at the next meeting at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, no, I'm comfortable with leaving my phone number. Again, I welcome the criticism or the constructive criticism to help myself, help you. I can be reached at 728-230-0244. And again, that number is 728-230-0244. And I service all of Palm Beach County, and I provide free consultations. Let me take a look at your environment, see where I can help you, see some of those things that you might not necessarily see. With my experience being so broad, I have a lot of information. I may not be able to touch every single piece, but we can help you move forward.
And I did put it up on the screen here, 2300244. Everybody could see it on the screen from me. I didn't stick your name in the phone number there, but he's on the screen there, Chris, in the IT field. We've been going over some of the questions that I've been asking him. What's his experience in the IT industry? And he provided us with some either case studies or some references. He talked about some specific services that he offers. He also talked about his approach to project management and communication. We covered a lot of ground here. He talked about how to handle some timelines and deadlines and why all these things are important and critical for your IT, for your company, small business, medium, and large, and also some of his pricing models or payment terms. Maybe touched upon that a little bit, and how he ensures data and security and compliance, which I think is one of his favorite areas, and what his process of handling technical support meetings would be, and accommodating scaling your business, how to scale your business as it relates to IT, maybe his own business as well, for how he would cover backup for your company if you choose to use him for IT for your business, and also his policies on technological advances as well. Very interesting answers. We're at the 21-minute mark. I do want to thank you here for being here. I'm going to give Tony the last word, so we'll just put up on the screen our blurb about the talk show before we go off the air and just chit chat, and then I'll go into my next meeting.
You have been listening to the OMG podcast with Paul Finkelstein. We can help you build wealth without hogging your time. Schedule a one-on-one with us. Thanks for listening. Join us again for another OMG podcast segment.
And like when the credits go down at the end, you could still hear me, but really it's over. So